Just League Dark Annual #1.
Here's the deal. I picked
yeah.
up in the shop, and I looked. And I saw, oh shit, got March on art. I'm gonna struggle. And then I opened it up and saw Tynan wasn't even writing it. He co-wrote the story, but
Yeah.
you know, Ram V was doing it all, and I just went, nope, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, it's also Gillum March on the art.
Yeah, which is I got three pages.
Which I opened.
I was just like, no.
I opened it and it went. I was like, it's not the worst Gillum March I've seen, right? Like,
I got his second page and saw his detective chimp and you know, Wonder Woman in the back. I was just like, do you know what? No, I don't want to read that.
Well, so the Justice League Dark only in this for a hot second because it opens and there's a story of this doctor who's up in Maine. I think he's a botanist and he's working. You find out, and this is the biggest problem with this one is it's big, huge walls of text to read. So it almost reads like a prose story.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, right. But it only does that.
Through.
Yeah, but it only does this when it's telling the doctor story. So his name is Dr. Oleander Sorrell, and he's tasked with basically creating, crossing genomes of flowers to try to see what they can survive, right? So he's up in Maine, and it's it's all frozen, and you're getting little pieces of his life, and that's where the story starts. This is all from his journal. And then they get to the Justice League Dark, and they're basically, because magic has changed, none of the magic books matter anymore, right? So it's basically having like an old instruction manual for something that's been completely upgraded, right? It'd be like using an iPod instruction manual for a new iPhone, and so nothing's working like it should. And so as they're trying to figure all this out, the Justice League Dark. Constantine's like, well, I guess I'm officially part of the team now, but I need to talk to Swamp Thing. And Man-Bat's really excited to see Constantine. And Constantine makes it clear he's really only here to deal with the Upside Down Man because he's upset about what had happened. And Constantine tells Swamp Thing, which I kind of like this because it plays up on the history. He's like, hey, you don't serve the Parliament of Trees anymore. But there's a Parliament of Flowers, so don't you think you should kind of help them find a champion, right? And Swamp Thing gets a little bit upset, says he doesn't care about this anymore. But Constantine does the Jedi mind trick on him, and basically appeals to a sense of good. And it's like, you know what you need to do. Imagine you coming into this. And so you get back to the Sorrells, and you find out that Sorrell and his wife are in this deep depression because while they were undertaking this project, they had a kid die. And throughout the issue, you find out that it was, they found out he was sick. There was a tumor. There wasn't anything he could really do. And they kind of grew apart after the kid died. And she leaves. And so this is what you find out through these wall of text. And I mean, the art on these walls of text, Gillum March does get a little bit creative because this is all about flowers in bloom and finding this potential. And so a lot of these are bordered with flowers, and they kind of snake their way around and create these fun looking borders. But then you find out that after the wife leaves, there's an accident on these experiment flowers that he's doing, and he dies in a fire. And he says the fire's so hot that he can't feel anything. Right? So Swamp Thing shows up at the house, and now he is the avatar for the Parliament of Flowers, which he's basically a Swamp Thing, but he's nothing but flowers. And it's a really cool character design. Like, it doesn't look bad. And so Swamp Thing tells him, like, hey, like, I know you think you're who you were, but that's not you anymore. Those bones are gone. You just have his memories to connect you to Earth. But he doesn't want to hear that. So you get back to the wife's story, and she goes to leave with this other guy who seems like a friend. And they're going to go to the beach and get her mind off of, her now dead ex-husband or husband and dead son. And they go to leave this house because it looks like time has gone past. And he stops them because the new guy, Sorrel, ends up meeting Jason Woodrue, who now is seeming to be a bigger character, and a thorn. So do you remember him showing up in any other Swamp Thing, or in? Because I feel like he's showed up recently.
Recently? Oh.
No? All right, maybe I'm just. But so he basically tells him, you don't understand how powerful you are. And so as the wife goes to leave, he sends what looks like a copy of their dead child to the door. And now, of course, she doesn't want to leave. But he stays in the shadows. Swamp Thing starts being like, this is going to be a problem. And he ends up going to where the experiment happened and finding out that it wasn't an accident that Sorrel killed himself. He basically doused himself in chemicals and allowed the fire to take him over, where he ended up becoming nutrients for the flowers, right? And in doing this, I guess the Parliament of Flowers saw this as a sacrifice, and that's kind of the purpose of flowers, right? Is the flowers' purpose is to look pretty and to draw attention, but eventually they're a reminder of all things that die, right? So that's why they're presented in times of grief and whatnot. And so you find out that he's building these children out of flowers and sending them to her. And so now she has this little family that she kind of always wanted. But the kids have this weird sense that they're not permanent. They can't stick around. So like she stops one of the kids from jumping off of the ledge. And that's when Swamp Thing tells them, like, well, no, they have deep-seated of you. Like, because you took your life, your creation, that's what's going on forward, right? But Sorrel doesn't want to listen, and this has all just been a manipulation from Woodrue, who ends up fighting with Swamp Thing, and he becomes full-on Floronic Man. He's like made out of woods, and so because Sorrel couldn't remember, Swamp Thing ends up, getting defeated by Floronic Man, but in doing so, he passes on the truth that Sorrel killed himself, which, he basically lets himself go, and he rescinds the power of being the avatar for flowers. And in this really gross scene, Floronic Man, Jason Woodrue, ends up eating his hand of Sorrel and taking over the power. And Swamp Thing takes the wife, to Constantine, and he's upset that he couldn't help. And Constantine's just like, there'll always be a place for a monster that lives out in the swamps. Everybody knows that. So don't feel too bad. But in where Woodrue was, you see him start sprouting flowers in this really ghastly looking scene. And Circe comes to him in this new form, where she's got the crown of the goddess of magic, and she's got like this flowing red hair and new outfit, and she has a proposition for him, which is going to be continued in Justice League Dark 14, which it seems like she's putting together her Injustice League, or Doom League, whatever you want, Dark. But yeah, I mean, the Swamp Thing story was real nice. It's good to have Swamp Thing back and be so focused, and you could tell that it was going to be a tragedy from the time that it started. That said, I don't know why it needed to be in an annual, because there seemed to be a lot of filler in here. But I'll say that March's art wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, I saw that on the first page, and I was taken aback, but much better than his Justice League work earlier in the year. I'm going to rate it. I'll give it a 6.5.